Hey, can you imagine the Phillies without the Phanatic?
No.
Without the mascot? No. The Phillies are taking this whole discussion to a courthouse, possibly.
So let's do a little history first. The Phanatic was created back in 1978. Yes, Executive Vice President Bill Giles worked with Harrison and Erickson Incorporated to create it. The team paid the firm for its work, and the mascot was a hit. Then, 6 years later, in 1984, the Phillies signed a contract to keep the mascot, quote, forever. But, according to ESPN, the firm is now going back on the agreement, and they want the team to renegotiate by June of next year. Phillies fans, they had a lot to say about this.
If we lose the Phanatic, they'll lose me, too. He's my favorite player.
I hope it doesn't happen. As far as I'm concerned, the Phillie Phanatic, it's like an institution here in the city. It's like the Liberty Bell. You know, he has to stay here. So the Phillies got to do whatever they can do to make sure they retain him here in Philadelphia.
The Phanatic's been such a part of Philadelphia, not just the baseball team, but I don't see how they cannot leave the Phanatic in Philadelphia.
Can't lose the Phanatic.
So, could the Phanatic really become a free agent? We have a trademark attorney, Michael Snyder from Volpe and Koenig. Oh, I say Koenig. Is it Koenig?
It is Koenig.
Mike, good to see you.
Good to see you, too. Thanks for having me.
Let's throw up the timeline again graphically. This all started in '78, right? When Bill Giles says, we need a mascot.
It's exactly right. And if you remember at the time, there were the older mascots, Phil and Phyllis, which were basically characters in colonial costume. They didn't feel that they could do enough or engage enough, with the crowd. So Bill Giles comes up with part of the idea of what the Phanatic would look like as far as describing this big furry creature with the long nose.
And he contacts Harrison and Erickson. And what are they famous for?
They're famous for costume design. So they are someone in the business. They are working together trying to create something.
And they did. They created this green thing we call the Phanatic.
The Phanatic, which took off and became this spectacularally beloved character.
But they were testing out at first. That's why it's not until years later when they said, okay, we're buying the rights to it and we want it forever.
That's 1984.
Yeah, there were some licenses before that, but no one was really particularly happy with how that worked out. So in 1984, there was a first lawsuit about this, actually, where they settled it by having all of the rights to the copyright and the character assigned forever to the Phillies.
To the Phillies.
And when you say forever, I think most people think, okay, forever. Like, we don't have to bring this up again. It's done. Go away.
Well, that's a great point, because unfortunately, under the law, forever might not mean forever, because under the Copyright Act, they have a section 203 where after 35 years after you have any kind of license or assignment of a copyright, if you are the author, you could actually ask for it back and rescind that agreement.
All right, so let's do the math. Has it been 35 years since 1984? Help me.
It'll be in June of next year.
In June of next year, based on the date of this contract, that is when the termination could go into effect.
So some judge could have to decide, do we overturn the 1984 decision that you have it forever or not?
Yeah, there's so many complex questions in the area of intellectual property, which is the kind of work that we do at our law firm. There's copyright, there's trademark, the fact that the Phillies own the name Phillie Phanatic. That wouldn't go with the costume, let's say.
Okay, so let's say Harrison and Erickson win, and they get the big green guy back. They can't call it the Phillie Phanatic.
They can't call it the Phillie Phanatic. They wouldn't be able to use his image in selling certain goods and services. So you're really splitting apart this character, which is now one unitary mascot that is beloved by the city, but you could take it somewhere else, but you would have to call it something else and rebrand it.
So it looked the same, but it would have a new name.
Potentially that is something that could happen.
But on the flip side, the Phillies can still use the image, all the Phanatic hats and the pictures. They can still use all of that.
But the guy,
they just won't have the actual costume to be running around, or the guy.
So it makes no sense. Nobody wins here, unless Erickson wins. And you take it to Greensboro, and he's the Greensboro Greenie, or whatever.
Which, by the way, contact me. We could trademark that if that name actually becomes a popular name.
This is not going to court.
Yeah, what would Erickson, what would their argument be? That they need more money because now it's made so much and it's so popular?
Well, copyright, this part of the copyright law was built for, you may hear stories about musicians when they're young giving away their catalogs for not enough compensation. That 35-year take-back in the Copyright Act is kind of built in to help those types of transactions.
Okay, Mr. Attorney, what's your prediction on this?
I don't know how you can split the trademarks and the actual image and the character from just the costume.
But if Erickson wins and they take the Phanatic away from us, the Phillies wouldn't want to use the trademark and pictures and images.
They may want to rebrand as well, but that's why I think this is one of those cases where the parties really need to get together at the table.
If there's a big divorce and the Phillies lose the Phanatic and then they steal Gritty from the Flyers?
Oh my
I don't know. You know, he's extremely popular as well. I don't know if he could do double duty like that, but he seems capable of almost anything.
And there's a matter of the fact that he's orange, though.
Yeah, you'd have to spray paint it for the games or something.
Spray paint.
Thank you.
Yes, this is so interesting.
And why is the Phanatic green when our colors are red and white?
That's a good question.
You'd have to ask Bill Giles. He actually did pick the color and was very specific about it back in 1978.
Okay. How long do these cases take?
A federal case can take several years.
Oh, that's going to be a while.
It would be a long time, but they do try to get you early on to mediate to try to work it out.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
One of the cutest things we do every year is follow this. We get babies in diapers, and then they race each other.